Hey there, it's Trisha with Easy Emini Trade, and I'm going to go over the Renko setups from today, as well as just kind of talk a little bit about the scalping technique also on the Renko. And both of these I will go over in full detail at tomorrow's webinar, which is Wednesday, November 20th at 4 p.m. If you want more info on that, go to my site, easyemintrade.com, and click on the tab that says Upcoming Webinar. Okay, so let's get started. So when I've been doing these recordings, I've been doing it on the NQ. The setup is going to be able to be used on ES, YM, CL, GC, 6E, whatever you like to trade. Just the Renko settings will be different on the different instruments, but this setup, like I said, can be used on anything. So just like I've been doing, I have the standard indicators over here on the left, and then Gordon's indicators over here on the right, which will be available probably by the weekend. I'll let you all know when they're available, and you can decide if you want them or not. Again, not necessary. And then everybody who attends the webinar tomorrow registers for the webinar for tomorrow. I'll get the templates for Ninja 8. I do have the Renko for Ninja 7, and everything is standard indicators, so you'll be able to load them up and make your own chart on Ninja 7 with no problem. And then I have the study collection and template for Sierra. And if you're using TradeStation or Thinkorswim, whatever platform you're using, I'm sure that you have some form of Renko that will have the same type of options for putting in the settings. And if you send me a screenshot, I'm happy to take a look and give you a starting point if after the webinar you can't figure it out. All right, so this was the first setup, and it was obviously pre-market. This is 4:42 a.m. Eastern, and it was a valid setup. You can see we get above the close above the super trend stop here. MACD lines up, so that would be a buy into the high of the day. And then yesterday's high is this green line that is above us there. So obviously not trading at that time. And same here with this short, technically valid at 6:26 a.m. my time Eastern, and it's right into yesterday's high. You can see it does manage to work out eventually for a big drop. But realistically, if you're taking an entry at a support area, you have to assume support is going to hold, right? You just don't go in blind. Doesn't mean you can't take it, just means, be aware that, if you take a trade into support, that it has always the capability of bouncing off support no matter what style chart you are taking entries from. All right, so we started to move lower. Pretty much off the open at 9:30. So no Renko set up until, and this is on NQ. So no Renko set up until here. You can see it on both Gordon's chart with indicators and here on the standard indicators. And I marked support and resistance areas on here based off the 5-minute chart. And so this would have been at 10:17 my time, and that's Eastern. And you can see here, if you look at a 5-minute chart, you've got some resistance right here at that 47 where I marked. So anything that you do into that area, you just have to be aware of where the reaction areas are. You can see it on a 15 or a 1-minute. Again, whatever size chart you can stand to look at to give you the most information. So this is a 15. If we drill down to a 5, you can see it a little bit clearer here. And so again, where's the high volume areas? Where's price keep getting stuck? And those are the areas that we're going to want to watch out for and decide if there's enough room and decide to take it. And if it can't get through, then take that as your target. If it can, then you can move your stop to that area. So this entry here would be, if you get in above the bar here, so this is one thing I did want to clarify. I'm always looking for a close above or below the super trend stop, and that's this bar right here, right where I have my crosshair, and you can see it on Gordon's as well. And the high of that bar is 44. So anything above 44 and a quarter, as long as it's on the next bar, is a valid entry. So what you can do is you have a couple options. You can put your order in for a buy stop at 44 and a quarter, and get filled as soon as the next bar trades above it. And then the other option is, if you know the next bar has already traded to that, you have the option to get in anywhere on this next bar. So this would be the setup bar, the bar that closes above or below the super trend, in this case above. And you have the option to get in anywhere on this bar, the next bar, as long as it has triggered a tick above that setup bar. So you can see this next bar here actually traded all the way down to 42.50. So if you didn't want to get in at 44.25, you could have gotten in anywhere from 42.50 up to 44.25 on this second bar. So that is totally up to you. Now keep in mind, sometimes if you get a setup, it will not retrace. So if you decide that you want to wait for a retracement on the entry bar, so that would be the bar after the setup bar, to get in, giving you a better entry price, sometimes you don't have that option. It just keeps going without you. So that's something that you have to decide. So let's just assume entry 44.25. We know we've got 47 up there. You just saw it on my 5-minute chart that I just showed you. That's where these blue lines came from. And it actually traded up to 48.50. So you'd go in looking around that 47, and then you get more than you anticipated. Again, where's resistance, where's support, and take it or pass. That would be up to your risk tolerance. This here, you can see it gets closed below the super trend stop, but it's not valid because of our MACD here. So that would have to be a pass. Next one here. I'm not saying that, like, let's say that you see this is moving lower and you're not in. Doesn't mean that you can't still take one of your other setups that you trade, right? It's important to have a couple different options for entering. And we actually did have a setup off of our 8 range chart that we were able to get in, and were pleasantly surprised when it busted right through this yellow line here that you can see on both these charts. That was yesterday's close. So just because you're not getting an entry here on your Renko doesn't mean that you won't get an entry, using one of your other setups, as I just mentioned. So I think the entry that we took off the range chart was at 36. Yeah, 36. And that was a nice trade. Okay, here, buy is valid. You can see it on both charts here, and I've got the crosshairs matching up. I'm not using the time scroll because that always messes me up. So the entry on that would be above that bar. So 26.25 for the buy. We've got this 27 area, which was strong resistance. You can see on the next bar, it does actually tag it and pull back. But if you wanted to opt to take it, as long as, so actually, I actually did take this as a buy. So here's what I was talking about with the entry option. So the entry on this bar would be 26.25 for the buy above this bar here. So as long as the next bar traded above 26.25, I can get in anywhere on this next bar, as long as it doesn't take out my stop where I would have my stop first. So my stop was placed a couple ticks under the low of this bar. So I could have gotten in anywhere on this next bar from 21.50 up to that, 26.25. So that would be, again, up to the individual how they want to get in. If you got in at 26.25, your stop still held, and away you go. And then if you got in obviously a little bit better than 26.25, you could have been already profitable up there at 27, and then the target would be yesterday's close area. So I did want to point that out about the different ways to enter, not being locked into a tick above or below the setup bar. All right, next entry here gets below the super trend here. Entry would be at 46.75, or anywhere between 46.75 and 50.75, right? Because this next bar, if you didn't want to get in right under that, you could have gotten anywhere on that bar. So again, for the sake of this explanation, let's just assume under the low of this bar, which would be 46.75. And support for me, what I would be looking at is we've got the 47 area marked and we're getting in under that. Ideally, we'd like to get down to the next area of support, which would be around that 39 area. But what we don't want to ignore is that if you look at this on your 5-minute, what I do is I'll keep adjusting my support resistance areas as they're created on the 5-minute chart. And so right here, if we move from that 39 area, you can see that this area here, prior to where that setup short would have been here, you can see that we've got this high volume area and this area where we've got this common vicinity right here. We've got the low of this bar, the low of this bar, the close of this bar, the open of this bar, high of this bar. So we could use that 41.25 area to decide if we want to use that as a target area. And then if it gets through there, then we can be looking down at the next area of support if it can break that. And again, we would look down to, because this hadn't formed yet here, so then we would look at this little area here as the next possible hiccup area right there around 37. So if we take that entry here, we're looking at that 41 and then 37. Doesn't quite tag the 41, but if you got in, like I said, at 46.75, it did trade down to 42.25. So, you still probably got 3 points or 3 and something out of it. And with that 90 and 200 period moving average right below me, right in that area that that we were just talking about, I would view that as a possible support area. Didn't quite tag it, but worked out nonetheless. And if you weren't anticipating that area and you didn't take anything off as it was getting there, then you got stopped out. So again, pay attention to what's around you. Buy here, not valid because our MACD does not agree. So next that is valid would be down here. And again, into support, into that 90, into that 200. So again, that's going to be a judgment call on your part if you want to take that into a strong area of support. The entry would be 42.25 or anywhere on the next bar. So basically from 44 to 42.25 with 41 here. This would be a pass for me. I wouldn't be interested in that one just because not a lot of room. It looks like your stop held and it did trade down to 39.50, so maybe you got a couple points out of it. And it doesn't mean you can't take the trade if it's into a support resistance area, just means be smart about what to use as your target areas so you're not sitting there expecting a runner and you're coming into a resistance spot, right? All right, so this buy here, valid, right here, you can see it. MACD's in line to take it. You know we're going sideways, right? Just look to the left. You can see we're going sideways. So if we take this buy here, 51.75, we would be aware of somewhere around that 53. And if need be, you can actually adjust that up a little bit based on the last resistance area up over here holding. But still 53 looks like a good one to me. And then if it can get through there, then you're looking at a retest of this general area between 55 and 56. So again, judgment call if you wanted to take that or not. It did work out. 51.75 got up to 54.50. So again, if you're waiting for a runner, you wound up with nothing. So always be aware. Where is support? Where is resistance? And let's see. So this is the one we just went over. Next one is right here. This is the one that just happened. Oh, wait, we got a short here. Again, still into that support area of 41, right? And if you struggle knowing where price can react, just put the volume profile on there and see where those high concentration of volume areas are. So this entry here, technically valid, and you get in under 41, so 40.75, and again, you could get in anywhere on the next bar. So anywhere between 40.75 and 42.75. So let's just again assume 40.75. Trades down to 37.25. So again, good for a couple, couple points. And then the last one that just happened is the buy here at 50.25, and you'd be looking at all the resistance areas. So you get in 50.25, you got resistance up there at 53, and then again at 57. And where'd the 57 come from? If you look at your 5-minute chart, you can see this area here at 57.75 spot. If you use the market profile, that's fair value area high. So if you're not familiar with the market profile, the value area is where 70% of today's volume was traded. So that's where, likely you're going to not get a lot of follow through, except up to the next area of resistance and down to the next area of support. Okay, so I quickly want to just show you the other setup for scalping. So there are a couple different options. And option being you can filter using the MACD or not use a filter at all. So you get a close below that HMA, and you get in a tick below that bar. And again, up to you how much you want to shoot for, but typically it's good for 2 to 3 points, usually without much effort. But if you know that you're got an area of support, you might as well shoot for the area of support. Here you get closed above right here, and if you use a filter, you're going to pass on that short here, this buy here on this bar right here. If you use the MACD as a filter, you're going to pass on that short there. So again, that's going to be a judgment call. The short here as it closes below would be valid, and then you get a close above here, and MACD not in line for it. If you're going to opt for that as your option to get in, if you want to take it anyway, knowing you've got resistance at 47, and then if it gets to 47, you're looking at 53. So if you got in at 45, that would be 45.75. Trades up to on this bar here at 48. So like I said, usually pretty easy to get 2 to 3 points out of that without much issue. So again, up to you how aggressive or conservative you want to be. A key to know when you're going sideways, if you can't tell, is if you find your MACD lines are hanging all around together at that 0 line with not very much room between them, that's a good heads up that you've got some sideways action. All right, you guys, so hope to see you all tomorrow. If you have any questions, I did want to show you real quick. Here's Sierra. What I did was, as I mentioned, I set up the templates and study collection for Sierra. So you can see you've got all the same options here. And what you'll find is that we may have slight differences every now and then between the entry areas. Mainly when you'll find that is when the market is chopping around sideways. So for example here, as going sideways here, this buy back here, right here, let me just go here, would get you in, again, let's just assume above the, a tick above the bar, would get you in at 50.25, where here on Ninja it was 51.75. So sometimes just some slight differences, and mainly they're pretty close, but as I just said, if we're chopping around sideways, there could be a slight difference between where the super trend is plotting. And so this buy here, valid on Sierra, entry would be 53.25, where here on Ninja it was 50.25. So slight difference, but you're going to find it's not going to matter. Sometimes it'll be a little better on Sierra, sometimes a little better on Ninja, and either way they're going to both work out. Okay, you guys, have a great day, and I will hopefully see you all tomorrow. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. Take care, you guys.